Hi, I'm Jodelle. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the handshake, the dreaded handshake, a little bit of the history of it, and the 5 kind of handshakes that you could come across, and which one you want to have. Let's jump into it. The reason why I'm talking about handshakes today is because that is one of the first impressions you make on people, especially in a business setting. It says so much about you, but if you're smart, it also says so much about the other person. So you want to get really good at giving a handshake, receiving a handshake, and reading the handshake, because that is going to be your secret weapon going forward in that relationship with that person. So the history of the handshake, it seems to come from the era when people carried swords and they would carry them on their left side, so their right hand would be able to like pull them out of the scabbard. And so by outreaching their right hand to give a handshake, it's showing that they're coming in a sign of peace, and they're showing that they have no ill intention towards the other person. Then fast forward to 2020, and the whole handshaking business got a little weird. We saw fist bumps, we saw elbow bumps, we saw foot bumps, and all sorts of different things. So this really brought handshaking to the forefront and like getting people really thinking about it. I'm happy to see that handshaking has come back into fashion again. I enjoy a good handshake. It does let me know a lot more about the person than a fist bump or an elbow bump. Sometimes these might be appropriate, and you might even just want to do them yourself. I'll share a little trick with you. If you're not a handshaker, you've discovered that you don't like the handshake, a really easy way to get around it is to carry something in both hands. So when someone comes up to you and they stick out your hand, you just kind of, hold up your hands and just say, "Hi, nice to meet you." And that's just a super easy way out of it. You can always tell them that you're not a handshaker. Absolutely. You can let people know where you stand. But if you're looking for a way to not be confrontational at all and just to have an easy out, then having something in both hands is really easy. You could have a glass of water in one hand and you could be carrying your phone in another. It could be as simple as that. That is a super easy way to get out of it if this is not at all something that you're interested in. How do you know when to give a handshake? This is something that you want to get really good practice with. You want to read the body language. If somebody is walking towards you, they might be coming in for a hug. They might be coming in for that like half handshake, hug, pat on the back, kind of awkward thing. Mostly if you start raising your hands up and they're not reciprocating in any way, you want to read their body language. And it's the subtle movements. If you see their arms starting to move forward, that's how you know they're going to come in for that handshake. You can slowly start raising your arms up. Even just moving your one shoulder forward kind of lets them know your intention as well. So it's really in the minutia of the movements, and you're still going to get it wrong sometimes. You'll stick your hand out, they'll go for a hug, or you'll stick your hand out, worst case scenario, and they say, "Oh, I don't shake hands." And you just say, "Oh, no problem. Don't take it personally." But really, it's going to be practice that is going to get you to cue into the little movements that they're making, they're letting their intention known. It also doesn't hurt for you to stick your hand out first. And that brings me into the hierarchy of the handshake. Usually, the first person that sticks their hand out is the one that holds the more power. So if you're unsure when you're walking up to someone, stick your hand out, because then it's going to show them that you are confident. And in that scenario, it will come across like you got that first move, right? If it's a chess game, you've made the first move. The way you hold your hand is also a sign of power. If you go into that handshake with your hand on top, that's going to show dominance. If you go in with your hand underneath, that's going to show submissiveness. So you just want to go dead on, side by side, shake the hand. Now, sometimes you will get that second clasp over top. If you're receiving that, what I found is older men will tend to do that because they see me as a younger person. And it's almost like a fatherly, grandfatherly kind of gesture. In that way, it doesn't feel more dominant. It just feels more parental. So the different types of handshakes that you're going to have, and I had a little fun with naming these. The first one I will call Miami Vice. And this is where you go in and the person shakes your hand like a freaking vice, and it is so bone-crushingly strong, and there's no need for it, and that can be really surprising and super off-putting, but that's going to tell you a lot about that person. They're going to have a domineering kind of personality, which probably means that they're a little bit insecure, and so they might overcompensate by giving you the strong handshake. Watch out for those guys. They are going to be probably a little more vocal and probably a little boisterous, and that's how I would read that handshake. The next handshake is the Limp Bizkit. And this is where they give you their hand. There's no oomph to it at all. The wet noodle, the dead fish, whatever you want to call it. You don't want to squeeze too hard. You don't want it to last any longer than it has to. Just let go and be done with the handshake at that point. But receiving a handshake like that, they're either not interested in meeting you or they're self-conscious. That's how I would read that handshake. It also reads a little bit like they're not bringing any value to the conversation. So I would be really aware if that's the kind of handshake that you're giving out. It's not setting the groundwork for you to come across as confident and secure in your position. The next style handshake that you could receive, I call this the finger 11. And this is where you go in for the handshake and you get only a couple of their fingers. And all they're giving you is this little bit of fingertip, and you don't really know what you're hanging on to. And I would also just let go of that right away as well. That one to me is going to tell me that they're more shy and more self-conscious. So the fourth style of handshake that you could be receiving or that you could be giving out unknowingly is the claw. And this is the handshake that you come up, you do a great handshake, and then they pull you in and they pull you a little closer, and then they want to give you a pat on the back or maybe a quick little hug or whatever. That's the claw. You will probably receive some of those and it might surprise you. You won't really know how to handle it. One great way of doing that, of preventing that, is to quickly put your hand on their hand. Now you've got both hands in front of you and there's no way they can kind of pull you in because that's going to get super awkward. The other way, they can kind of pull you in sideways. So that's one surefire way to prevent that from happening if you notice it. But it's going to be the minutia, and it's going to be really quick little movements. So you got to be really present and really aware of what's happening and what's happening with you and to you. The fifth handshake I have coined the Jane Fonda, and this is the sweaty, clammy handshake. Now you might be giving these out, no shade at all. If you're really nervous or meeting someone that's of high stature and you're really nervous about meeting them, you're going to get clammy. You're going to get nervous. The only way you're going to be able to beat that is by rubbing your hands on your pants discreetly. There's not going to be a really great way to get around this. What you want to do is try to practice your breathing, try to get yourself grounded, and really in that moment, try to settle yourself. And as they're walking up to you and the handshake's about to happen, there's not a whole lot you can do in that scenario. But if you do shake someone else's hand and it's sweaty or it's clammy or whatever, you don't have to shake their hand forever. Just a quick little pump and let go. And it's better to have a quick little handshake than to linger with that feeling. Some people might be polite and stick around for it, but they will probably avoid it in the future, which won't be a great feeling. Now, the last kind of handshake, this is the one you want to shoot for. This is called the Goldilocks handshake. This is the perfect handshake. It's not too hard. It's not too soft. It's not too close, but it's not too far. You're right in the middle. It's just right. You walk up, you both have your hands ready. You go to shake the hands. You keep your thumb up. You give it a couple nice pumps. You're matching their strength, and then you disengage. And it's as simple as that. It sounds so simple, but it leaves you feeling like you just gave the best high five of your life. Another sign that that Goldilocks handshake has gone well is that at the end of the handshake, after you've disengaged, they might give a quick pat on the arm. And that's almost like an acknowledgement of like, yeah, we're on the same page here. And yeah, this is great, right? Because you're both matching each other's energies. And there's something about matching someone's energy that gets you on the same page. You're on the same wavelength. We like that. We like seeing our behaviors, our energy matched in the person that we're talking to. So the best way you can go about finding this Goldilocks handshake is by practice. Practice with your family. Practice with your friends. You can even practice with a teddy bear, for goodness sakes. Practice with anyone and anything and ask them for feedback. Ask them what they think about your handshake. Go into it, shake their hand, and then say, hey, what did you think about that handshake? Because usually that is the first impression you're going to make, and you want to make sure that you're coming across as confident and polished. I wish you the best of luck, and if you've had any really funny handshake stories, please share them. I would love to hear some funny stories that you've had. I would say that the worst story that I had was when the fist bump first came out. I, of course, had no idea what the person was doing, and they gave me their fist, and so I just held it and shook it. I didn't really understand like what was happening. So that is my probably worst mishap when it comes to the handshake. So thanks very much for watching, and if you like the video, then sub if you love, and I will catch you in another video. Bye.